Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2, Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng left the palace of Emperor Chu and returned to his own cave mansion. Master, Morosa had been waiting to greet him. Luo Feng smiled at him. I have taken the Emperor as my mentor. Morosa immediately showed a look of joy, although it was almost certain, when General Xuanjiao came to invite him, Morosa was still worried that something unexpected might happen. After all, he was a sector beast and feared bringing trouble to his master. I'm going into seclusion now. In the coming time, unless it's something important, no one needs to be concerned, Luo Feng instructed, as he planned to consume the primordial crystal spirit fruit and naturally needed to focus completely on his cultivation. Apart from his master Emperor Chu, he would cut off all contact with the outside world. Of course, Morosa could still contact him through telepathy. During the seclusion, the primordial ancestor, Moyu Qingyang, and Emperor Chu Yu would temporarily be unable to contact him. Rest assured, Master, Morosa responded. Luo Feng had also left messages for the primordial ancestor and the others. Whoosh! Right then, Luo Feng had already headed to the quiet room. The master has taken the emperor as his mentor. Morosa was very excited. As a sector beast, he felt extremely uneasy in the land of origin. After all, apart from the sector beast of Qianmu Kingdom, the sector beasts throughout the history of the land of origin had all died. Once I become a pinnacle sector beast, and with the emperor backing the master, my situation should not be worse than that of the Qianmu Kingdom's sector beast, Morosa thought. If some more powerful primal chaos realm corpses come my way, perhaps I can become a godly king. The body of the great Saint Beiyu last time had greatly progressed Morosa's strength. But the bottleneck between the primal chaos realm and godly king was really difficult to break through. For Morosa, it also required a qualitative change in the sector within his body. Quiet room, a space within the Star Tower. Luo Feng looked at the pale red fruit in front of him. Its faint scent alone made the soul feel joyful and relaxed, and thought processes sped up several times faster. This is a rare treasure bestowed upon my mentor by the primogenitor Yang Feng, one that cannot even be nurtured within a source world. Luo Feng understood the value of such a treasure. To his mentor Emperor Chu, who already stood at the pinnacle of the land of origin, and had the backing of primogenitor Yang Feng, they were able to know all of the land of origin's past and even glimpse traces of the future, understand many truths of the source world, and uncover many secrets beyond the source worlds. For Emperor Chu's perspective, he viewed things from a very long-term view, even considering the end of the source world. But for Luo Feng, the years were still endless. A reincarnation era in the primordial cosmos was very long, and even tens of thousands of reincarnation eras, under the supreme rules of the source world, were merely a period of time. Luo Feng couldn't see as far as Emperor Chu did, and he only thought about taking each step correctly. First, to climb step by step to the pinnacle of the land of origin, he could also repay his mentor's kindness and help his mentor, mountain-sitting guest, to take revenge. Having arrived at Chu capital, I have finally tasted the flavor of top resources, Luo Feng mused to himself. Before coming, he was too poor to even have a suitable godly king-level inheritance. Now, both 8 Tribulations life form and Extermination of 72 Blades inheritances, these 2 inheritances surpassed the ultimate realm of God King, and their creators had very high realms. As for auxiliary cultivation resources, those imperial clan elites, direct disciples of godly kings, and so on, had been using such resources for a long time. Luo Feng had never come into contact with these types of resources in the past. Such a treasure. Luo Feng looked at the pale red fruit. Let's taste it. He took a gentle bite. The flesh was somewhat tough, but with Luo Feng's godly body strength, he easily chewed and swallowed the pieces, consuming the entire fruit in a few bites. Once inside his body, the flesh gradually decomposed, spreading energy that began to influence his soul. Luo Feng felt different. With his perfect divine body, Luo Feng's soul was already powerful. Combined with the spiritual will of the second realm of Godly King, his thinking speed was already extremely fast. Yet at this moment, nourished by the fruit's energy, his soul's thought processes reached a standard more than 20 times faster than before. Moreover, his soul felt ethereal, and merely by contemplating the chapter of life spirituality, in the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form, previous confusions were swiftly understood. During past cultivation, enlightenment would only occasionally flash. Now my comprehension has greatly increased, and many puzzles are no longer puzzles. And my thought processes are more than 20 times faster. Is this the effect of truly top-tier resources from the land of origin aiding in cultivation? Luo Feng no longer dwelled on it and began to focus on understanding the inheritances. In that core location of the origin ground in the primordial universe, the divine power incarnation of Luo Feng was facing the grand and towering Great Tao of Life Origin. Great Tao of Life Origin, Luo Feng observed, and because he had consumed the primordial crystal spirit fruit, his consciousness observing the complete Great Tao of Life Origin was much more insightful than in the past, his thinking vastly accelerated, and what he saw of the Great Tao of Life Origin also changed. In his eyes, the Great Tao of Life Origin, at first glance, was a sinuous dragon with 24 claws. But upon closer observation, he saw a deeper essence. Search the novelia.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The outward form of this Great Tao of Life Origin actually contains 6 major branches, Luo Feng realized. Each branch was mysterious and unpredictable, and their perfect combination made them even more vast and complex. Just like the 10 fundamental laws, each one on its own is quite simple, and those below the true God can comprehend many aspects of it. But to integrate the 10 fundamental laws into one body, into the primal chaos laws, is something only those of the law lineage in the primal chaos realm can do. The same principle applies. The 6 major branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin, to fully comprehend any single branch, would be the first realm of Godly King. To fully realize all 6 branches isn't too hard. But to completely integrate the 6 branches into one, the difficulty immediately skyrocketed by an unknown multiple. Only by completely merging into one, can it become a complete Great Tao of Life Origin, which is considered the ultimate realm of God King. The gap between the first realm of Godly King and the ultimate realm of God King is really too vast. Luo Feng now truly understood the difference between those ancient beings from the land of origin. The elite of the imperial clans from the 2 ancient countries had also consumed many resources, some of which were no less than the primordial crystal spirit fruit. However, the effectiveness of resources also depends on who consumes them. In the environment of the primordial cosmos, where Luo Feng had only a vague sense of the laws, he was able to reach the level of an eternal true God. One can imagine his aptitude for understanding, and now, after consuming the primordial crystal spirit fruit and observing the Great Tao of Life Origin, he felt the continuous surge of insights. All 6 branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin were making progress. Time passed. Luo Feng was facing the Great Tao of Life Origin, while contemplating the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form, and the extermination of 72 blades. Occasionally, he would also allow Morosa to display the mysteries of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin. During this cultivation process, Emperor Chu Yu, primordial ancestor, and Moyu Qingyang didn't come to disturb Luo Feng. Finally, the effect of the primordial crystal spirit fruit completely vanished. Luo Feng felt his soul becoming much heavier and murkier, and his thought processes slowed down. Having grown accustomed to the previously increased aptitude and quick thinking, Luo Feng felt somewhat uneasy. This one primordial crystal spirit fruit lasted a little over an era. Luo Feng stopped his cultivation, somewhat shocked. In just a little more than an era, I have improved this much. The 6 branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin, and the 6 branches of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin, all made comprehensive progress. Because the cultivation of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin required the help of Morosa's display of its mysteries, so the progress was much slower than that of the Great Tao of Life Origin. 12 branches progressed comprehensively. The first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form recorded 3 lineages: the body of life, the origin of life, and life spirituality. The first volume of the extermination of 72 blades recorded the heaven-splitting lineage and the dark heaven lineage. With the inheritance for these 5 lineages, progress was naturally faster. The heaven-splitting lineage and dark heaven lineage of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin have both reached the top standards of the primal chaos realm. The body of life lineage and the origin of life lineage of the Great Tao of Life Origin have also reached the top standards of the primal chaos realm. The life spirituality lineage has reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Luo Feng was amazed. Even with a strong inheritance and sufficient talent in the primal chaos realm, it might take tens of thousands of eras to reach the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng reckoned that without the primordial crystal spirit fruit, focusing on cultivation for 1 or 200 eras, he might only be able to reach his current realm. 1 primordial crystal spirit fruit, worth 100-fold effect. The most important thing is the improvement of comprehension. When you encounter a bottleneck, increasing comprehension makes breaking through the bottleneck much easier. Luo Feng understood that the primordial crystal spirit fruit was more suitable for use when breaking through bottlenecks. At this moment, Luo Feng distinctly felt that he had understood all the mysteries of the life spirituality branch. What he needed now was the last step, to perfectly integrate it into one, forming a complete branch, and only then could he become a godly king. The land of origin has many at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Even in peripheral kingdoms, there are a lot such existences. Some who have obtained top resources can even cultivate to transcendence of the primal chaos realm. But they are unable to become godly kings. It's because merging all the mysteries into one is much more difficult than penetrating all the mysteries. Luo Feng understood the difficulty. Penetrating all mysteries belongs to the process of learning. By studying slowly, one will always make continuous progress. Merging into one, on the other hand, is a qualitative change. I have a total of 10 fruits. As per my master's instructions, I am to use 5 in the primal chaos realm and 5 in the first realm of godly king, Luo Feng thought, based on the effects of the first fruit. With the help of the first fruit, my realm has greatly improved, as has my strength. Next, I need to be patient, let the various branches accumulate gradually, and understand them slowly by myself until I reach the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. When the 5 branches from the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form, and the first volume of that extermination of 72 blades have all reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, I will then consume the second fruit. Luo Feng was very clear about the difficulty of becoming a godly king. Therefore, such primordial crystal spirit fruits must be used at the most critical moment. Only by not relying on external things and reaching the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, can one hope to advance further with the help of external things. Sigh. Luo Feng left the quiet room, and as he looked around at the scenery, he saw the flowers and grass as if infused with endless vitality, growing rapidly. The leaves and branches of the big trees were full of boundless vitality, swaying as if to come alive. If I were to make further progress, I fear I could easily transform these ordinary flowers and trees, thought Luo Feng. Morosa, primordial ancestor, and Moyu Qingyang all hurried over, as Luo Feng had been in seclusion for a very long time. When they saw Luo Feng, they noticed that the plants and flowers around them were blooming, and the space around them was filled with the power of life. Master, Moyu Qingyang felt that his master was different somehow, but he couldn't say exactly where. Morosa, being of a high enough realm, felt that Luo Feng's present life breath was far more terrifying than before, even more terrifying than a sector beast like him. Why is Master's aura so terrifying? Morosa was secretly alarmed. Primordial Ancestor looked at Luo Feng and felt that Luo Feng's intangible aura even affected the operation of the illusionary universe constructed within him. When an individual is too powerful, it naturally affects the operation of heaven and earth, even affecting the operation of the illusionary universe within me. Luo Feng now seems much stronger than before he went into seclusion. Master, are you about to become a godly king? Morosa couldn't help but ask. Still a long way off, Luo Feng smiled. After being in seclusion for so long, I've lost all taste. Come on, let's go have a meal at Yu Jiafang's place. Yes, yes, yes. Morosa was delighted, and both Primordial Ancestor and Moyu Qingyang's eyes lit up. Yu Jiafang, that's a primal chaos realm being who has mastered cooking. His culinary delights are no less than many rare treasures. Primordial Ancestor, Moyu Qingyang, and the others were also very intrigued. As the highest culinary luminary in the Chu capital, it's not easy to get him to cook. It is only when God Kings and Transcendence of Primal Chaos realm step in that Yu Jiafang would warmly entertain. For over an epoch, Luo Feng focused on his cultivation after consuming the primordial crystal spirit fruit. Now that the effects of the spirit fruit had worn off, Luo Feng became more leisurely, enjoying fine cuisine at Yu Jiafang's place and visiting the Shallow Whisper Pavilion to listen to music and experience illusion techniques with the 7 emotions of heart refining method. The various powers in Chu capital also noticed that Great Saint Luo he was venturing out more often. One day, Luo Feng went alone to the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall in Chu capital. Great Saint Luo he, the master of the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall, greeted him personally. The master was an ordinary-looking woman clad in golden robes. She seemed inconspicuous with her aura concealed, but in reality, she was Marquis Xinhua, a pinnacle existence of the primal chaos realm. It was exceedingly rare for a non-imperial clansman to be conferred the title of Marquis in the Flame Wind ancient country. It's Great Saint Luo his first visit to our Flame Wind Pavilion since arriving in Chu capital, the woman in golden robes said with a smile. Please take a seat. The two sat opposite each other. An attendant brought over some fine wine and fruit. Marquis Xinhua, Luo Feng said, savoring the wine, I'm here to sell some treasures this time. Oh? Marquis Xinhua smiled. Given that Great Saint Luo he is a direct disciple of an emperor, our Flame Wind Pavilion will certainly offer the highest purchase price. For regular clients selling treasures, the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall would also drive a hard bargain to ensure a high profit margin. But behind the Flame Wind Pavilion were a group of emperors and some godly kings from the Flame Wind ancient country. As a direct disciple of an emperor, special treatment was naturally afforded. Take a look first, Luo Feng said, waving his hand, bringing out some of the spoils of war he had obtained from his last battle where he fought against 5 opponents. 3 scrolls emanating terrifying auras, some broken golden hoops, 3 black nails, and a long weapon staff. Luo Feng even brought out Marquis Liu Yin's blade and Great Saint Beiyu's double-edged axe. Marquis Xinhua broke into a smile upon seeing the long weapon staff. She recognized it at a glance. It was the godly king weapon of Marquis Chu Yuan, and its value was much higher. This double-edged axe. Marquis Xinhua's expression changed slightly. The death of Great Saint Beiyu remained a mystery to this day. Now seeing the weapon of Great Saint Beiyu, Marquis Xinhua understood. It seems that Luo he was the one who killed Great Saint Beiyu. Every transaction in the Flame Wind Association's dark hall was recorded and confidentiality for the client was mandatory. Even though Marquis Xinhua was the master of the Chu Capital branch, if she leaked any information, the Dark Hall would impose severe punishments. The Flame Wind Pavilion's widespread presence across much of the land of origin was due to its strict rules and regulations. An invisible glow enveloped the treasures in the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion, naturally appraising them and providing a price. Great Saint Luo, he is truly formidable, Marquis Xinhua sighed. Great Saint Beiyu was among the top combatants in the primal chaos realm, and, being proficient in the great Tao of life origin, had an extremely strong ability to preserve his life. Yet he still fell at the hands of Luo He. Luo Feng simply smiled, neither confirming nor denying. We will not leak any client's transaction information, Marquis Xinhua assured as she looked at the items. These 3 formation diagrams are quite valuable, and the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion can purchase them for 260 billion cosmic sand. The one who actually desired these 3 formation diagrams the most was their original owner, Saint Qianyu. However, after that one battle, even Saint Qianyu had become very poor and simply couldn't afford them. These golden hoops are broken and need repair, said Marquis Xinhua. We can only pay 30% of the price, which comes to 90 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng muttered to himself silently. He had held back somewhat at the time. If he had let loose, the hoops would have been completely shattered. These 3 black nails can also be counted as 90 billion cosmic sand. As for the blade and double-edged axe, together they can be counted as 90 billion cosmic sand. Added up, that comes to 530 billion cosmic sand, declared Marquis Xinhua. Luo Feng nodded as he listened. He had only brought out some of the important treasures. Many smaller spoils of war were not presented as their combined value was limited. As for this most important Godly King weapon, Marquis Xinhua pointed at the long staff. This is Marquis Chu Yuan's Godly King weapon. It's a weapon of the first realm of Godly King tier, and is relatively simple to forge. According to the purchase price of the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion, it's merely the lowest at 500 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng knew that even though they were both Godly King tier weapon secret treasures, armor and bladed weapons naturally varied in value. Places like the Star Tower, that are akin to palaces, are even more valuable. In critical moments, one could hide inside such a palace-class secret treasure to escape. Of course, Luo Feng's physical body was so strong that no one had yet forced him to retreat into the Star Tower to escape with his life. Godly King weapons could even attract Godly Kings as buyers, continued Marquis Xinhua. I suggest you put this long staff on consignment through the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion. With your status, Great Saint Luo He, our Dark Hall will only charge the minimum consignment fee of 5%. The starting bid for consignment will be 600 billion cosmic sand. You'll definitely earn more than if the Dark Hall purchased it outright. Then let's consign it, said Luo Feng. The consignment period can be as short as 1 day, or as long as an epoch. Marquis Xinhua looked at Luo Feng. How long would you like to set for your consignment, Great Saint Luo He? 10,000 days will suffice, responded Luo Feng. An epoch in the land of origin was 10 billion days. There was no need for such a lengthy consignment. Marquis Xinhua smiled. Rest assured, we will inform all our important clients about this consignment. Those who can afford a Godly King weapon in the land of origin are not too numerous. The news of the consignment of the Godly King weapon spread among numerous clients across the land of origin. Within Chu Capital, it stirred some waves as the various factions also knew that this was once Marquis Chu Yuan's weapon. My weapon is being consigned. Marquis Chu Yuan clenched his wine glass until it crumbled into powder, his eyes flashing with thunder. This Luo He. He was angry, but he had been utterly defeated in their last encounter. Marquis Chu Yuan immediately contacted his most trusted friend, Marquis Chu Ji. Chu Yuan, are you looking for me because of your weapon? Marquis Chu Ji was well aware of his brother's temperament. Big brother, that's my weapon. If he hadn't put it up for consignment, then fine, but now that he has openly consigned it, I must buy it back, Marquis Chu Yuan said through gritted teeth. My weapon, ending up in the hands of other cultivators, would be a disgrace. Marquis Chu Ji responded, all right, I'll help you. I can only muster 500 billion cosmic sand on my end, said Marquis Chu Yuan. When it comes to the bidding, I estimate I'll need to borrow some from you, big brother. Sure, Marquis Chu Ji replied. Even as an imperial-level marquis of the imperial clan, they had to consume vast resources for cultivation. For Marquis Chu Yuan, to muster 500 billion cosmic sand was already a matter of exhausting all possibilities. To need more, they could only borrow. Time passed, day by day. Primal chaos crystals and primal chaos stones could naturally form within the primal chaos ruins. But cosmic sand had to be condensed by godly kings through cultivation. Each grain of cosmic sand contains pure power, and within each grain lies the embryonic form of a universe. Even for godly kings, it requires careful cultivation to condense. Cosmic sand has many uses. It could be used to refine the bloodlines of eternal true gods, to set up formations, and to cultivate heaven and earth's rare treasures. The most critical use is to shatter the cosmic sand to observe its most essential Great Tao's composition. Each grain of cosmic sand must possess at least a complete branch of the Great Tao to form. Therefore, cosmic sand was quite valuable. Even godly kings, when cultivating some unfamiliar branch of the Great Tao, would purchase some cosmic sand. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. In the blink of an eye, the consignment period ended. Luo Feng also arrived at the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall, where Hall Master Xin Hua welcomed him warmly. Great Saint Luo He, this consignment of the Godly King weapon has reached the final price of 700 billion cosmic sand. After deducting the 0.5% fee, that leaves 665 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng was quite satisfied. For such a precious weapon, consignment indeed was far more worthwhile. Do you want the actual cosmic sand, or shall we keep it deposited in our Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall for now? Hall Master Xin Hua asked. Keep it deposited for now, Luo Feng responded. By the way, I need to purchase perfect tier materials from primal chaos layer creatures. A quantity exceeding 1 in a millionth of the body will do. For each set of materials, I offer a price of 100 billion cosmic sand. The materials from perfect primal chaos layer creatures were extremely hard to obtain. Luo Feng chose the simplest method, exceedingly high bounty rewards. A normal Godly King weapon usually starts at 500 billion cosmic sand. His offer of 100 billion cosmic sand was just for a bit of primal chaos layer creature material. Surely, it would tempt some. I have already obtained a set of materials from the golden feather god bird, Luo Feng said. I need only one set of materials from each kind of perfect tier, primal chaos layer creature. This bounty is limited to 10 kinds of perfect tier, primal chaos layer creatures. Is there a time limit for this bounty? Hall Master Xin Hua asked. None. The bounty ends once 10 kinds of materials are collected, Luo Feng said. Hall Master Xin Hua understood. The bounty handling fee is 0.5% of the cost. That's fine. Luo Feng did not mind. In this era, his life spirituality lineage had reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, and both his body of life lineage and origin of life lineage had reached the top level of the primal chaos realm. Even so, as Luo Feng pondered the feathers of the golden feather god bird, he still had many doubts about Trinity comprehension. A creature like the golden feather god bird, with ordinary wisdom, deploying only threshold moves of the primal chaos realm, could still possess the strength of the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. It showed how terrifyingly powerful these perfect tier, primal chaos layer creatures could become when cultivated to the limit. If his galaxy transformation method could also reach the unity tier, to its perfect extremity, a single galaxy blade light deploying a common move would have the strength of the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Then what would happen if 10,000 blade lights surged overwhelmingly forward? What kind of power would that be? Even transcendent beings of the primal chaos realm, or those who have just ascended to the godly king tier, might simply be cleaved until their godly bodies disperse. Elevating the transformation method to the level of perfect tier, primal chaos creatures, is also a use of the great Tao of life origin. Luo Feng saw the prospects of this path, and naturally would continue down it. 100 billion cosmic sand, just for a set of perfect tier, primal chaos layer creature materials. When the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall passed the message on to important clients, quite a few were tempted. Even for transcendent beings of the primal chaos realm, earning 100 billion cosmic sand would take quite a bit of effort. In Wanjie Kingdom at this moment. Inside Wanjie Kingdom, there was a world that had been developed. Within it were many special creatures kept, godly king-level exotic beasts and perfect tier primal chaos layer creatures, along with some specially cultivated terrifying beings. Our bodily materials are needed. A towering rock creature and a silver-hoofed exotic beast both looked at their keeper. The keeper, a man in a yellow robe, said with a chuckle, "We only need portions of your body, exceeding 1 in a millionth of it. The material sold cannot be actively annihilated." It seems like he wants to study our bodily materials. The towering rock creature and the silver-hoofed exotic beast both eyed their keeper. Having reached the perfect tier of the primal chaos layer, their wisdom was quite high, and they were capable of deploying some primal chaos realm threshold moves. As long as you both agree. For the future 10,000 eras, I will present each of you with a vessel of blood spirit wine every era, the keeper said. Matters like this had to be consented to actively by the perfect tier primal chaos layer creatures, otherwise, with just a thought, the materials would be annihilated. 2 vessels of blood spirit wine, the silver-hoofed exotic beast raised 2 hoof tips. 3 vessels, the towering rock creature glanced at the silver-hoofed exotic beast. They had been captured from the primal chaos layer by Wanjie Kingdom's ruler long ago, and had been kept for a long time. Bodily materials. They did not care. What they wanted were pleasures like fine food and drink. 1 vessel of blood spirit wine is already the best I can do, the keeper shook his head continuously. After tough negotiations, the towering rock creature and the silver-hoofed exotic beast sold some of their bodily materials for the price of 1.5 vessels of blood spirit wine per era, with a provision of continuous supply for 10,000 eras. ****S tilde ear the novel, F. I.et website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Thanks to the following Alliance hierarchs for their recent tips. Cynthia Baby, Serenity is the state of hope, Butterfly P. Flower, You Are My Despicable, The End of the Horizon, Storyteller R. Zone, I Am Zetsu, King. Chu Capital, Luo Feng's Cave Dwelling's Quiet Room, a layer of space within the Star Tower. Luo Feng looked at the 3 sets of perfect primal chaos layer creature materials before him, a huge rock, 3 silver scales, and a section of a giant, broken leaf. Perfect primal chaos layer creature materials are really hard to collect, Luo Feng mused in the dark, 100 billion cosmic sand for each. And I've only managed to collect 3 sets over such a long time. It's understandable when you think about it. Those perfect creatures of the primal chaos layer would be captured by the pinnacle existences of the land of origin. These peak beings wouldn't even bat an eye at 100 billion cosmic sand. Only their direct disciples and offspring might be tempted, and would try to acquire some materials. Let's take a look. Luo Feng's palm was like a blade as he lightly swiped, easily slicing the rock into powder, the scales into dust, and the leaf into fragments. He then proceeded to dissect and analyze the fundamental composition of each material. Luo Feng saw it. The fundamental structure of the rock powder was a trinity form as well, containing a gray particle enshrouded with the law's secret patterns of primal chaos, and enclosing two merging gray particles. They all share the trinity form. The golden feathered bird is more agile, while this rock's trinity form is much heavier, Luo Feng studied and comprehended. The three new forms of materials were all trinity form, yet they had slight distinctions. These minute differences resulted in entirely different final forms. As Luo Feng contemplated, his understanding of the trinity form slowly increased. It's too complicated. Even as Luo Feng had reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, within the life spirituality lineage and the peak within the body of life lineage, he still found the trinity form too esoteric, almost like a perfect creation of heaven and earth. Grasping its nature was extremely difficult. In a mysterious palace, which doesn't exist in the real world but rather as a construction within an illusion. Thoughts converged there. The Luo He of the transcendence of primal chaos realm has recently been collecting perfect primal chaos layer creature materials. Could there be some special purpose for these materials that we don't know about? One thought voiced. I possess a perfect primal chaos layer creature, and have studied it closely. It's only slightly unique in its physical structure, imbued with some mysteries of the origin great Tao of life and the origin Tao of matter, another thought spoke. This Luo He has created his own body refining secret technique, which has similarities with the bodies of primal chaos layer creatures. He must be cultivating both the origin great Tao of life and the origin Tao of matter for his body refinement. Moreover, his blade technique must also encompass the great Tao of destruction origin, another thought added. In fact, his deduction was quite precise. Luo Feng was using the origin great Tao of life to understand the composition of perfect primal chaos layer creatures, then changing directly with the ability of being a formless and intangible. Were it not for the formless and intangible capability, one would need to study the origin Tao of matter, and also require material transformation. A cultivator of the primal chaos realm, studying three types of origin great Taos. This young one is certainly bold. It can be confirmed, there's nothing special about his collection of perfect primal chaos layer creature materials. Moving on to the next piece of intelligence, the ancestral god of the snow realm has exchanged at great cost the corpse of a Tuol mountain beast. The Tuol mountain beast is a special life form cultivated by the primogenitor Yang Feng from the primordial bloodline. Even the Tuol mountain beast houses a very faint trace of the primordial bloodline. The ancestral god of the snow realm, who practices the blood-dripping scripture, has comprehended all 6 branches of the origin great Tao of life, reaching the state of blood as the boundary. Yet, he has been unable to break through to the second realm of godly king. It's likely that he's planning to cultivate using the primordial bloodline. Continue observing. If he really can master a breakthrough using the primordial bloodline, then we could invite him to become one of us. Next piece of intelligence, the snow demon godly king of the thunder ancient country, has lost control, and devoured the true body of the Lei Shor godly king. Lei Shor godly king has lost his true body, and an ultimate realm of god king weapon. His loss is substantial. Lei Shor godly king won't let this go. They exchanged this intelligence. These ancient existences quietly observed the land of origin. Any precious opportunity, or powerful treasure, would catch the attention of the ancient existences, who might even take direct action to seize it. Of course, for the current Luo Feng, merely collecting some perfect primal chaos layer creature materials, those ancient existences wouldn't even bother. Moreover, Luo Feng was in Chu capital, and these ancient existences dared not venture into Chu capital to provoke Emperor Chu. Asterisk 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 asterisk. So the novel.ia.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Focused on cultivation, time flew by rapidly. Apart from cultivating, Luo Feng occasionally accepted missions to earn merit points. Bounty tasks, garrison tasks, treasure hunting tasks. The last two were quite troublesome, requiring either a long time or much thought. Only bounty tasks were relatively simple for Luo Feng, who possessed the Lai Yuan technique. It'll be him. Luo Feng didn't want to stir up too much trouble in the land of origin, so he only took on bounty tasks occasionally. This time, the bounty target was a top prime Chaos Realm strong being named Black Mist Great Saint, with a reward of 100,000 merit points. This Black Mist Great Saint practices the origin Tao of causality, Luo Feng said, using the tunneling transformation technique to arrive at Black Mist Great Saint's territory. This was a relatively remote region, mostly shrouded in black mist. Within this territory, there were over 100 ordinary cities. Under the cover of the black mist, each city was like an isolated island. Everyone returning to the city must be thoroughly checked. Make sure not to carry any evil objects with you. At the gate of one ordinary city, within the Black Mist territory, multiple formations carefully inspected every returning cultivator. The cultivators all obediently submitted to the inspections. Suddenly, one cultivator, under the careful scrutiny of the formation, saw blood marks emerge on the surface of his skin. Impossible, when did I pick that up? The cultivator showed a look of despair, as his body silently dissolved into nothingness. Not good, the cultivators in charge of receiving and inspecting each changed color drastically. All who have seen the blood-colored marks must undergo a second investigation to ensure they are not contaminated. A voice came, and even the guards, who hid in relatively safe regions, had to be inspected once. Otherwise, once it spreads into the city, the whole city will be engulfed in a great catastrophe. At this moment, Luo Feng appeared high in the sky, watching this scene. The catastrophe beast of the black mist has brought down the tribulation of causality, causing countless cultivators within his territory to live forever in panic. These karmic marks spreading, causing countless cultivators to be in utter terror, creating stronger karmic ties. Cultivating through the causality of all beings, comprehending the origin Tao of causality. Should the ties of causality become too deep, he would bring down a calamitous tribulation, causing all cultivators within the city to be wiped out, thus completely eradicating causality. Luo Feng had long known about the intelligence on this catastrophe beast of the black mist. Complete annihilation is the simplest way to eliminate causality. Indeed, the countless cultivators in these cities are deeply entangled with the catastrophe beast of the black mist. But in the end, they all head towards destruction. Who? Luo Feng walked above city after city, seeing the countless cultivators within them living in constant dread, with each outburst of the tribulation of causality meaning the death of many creatures. Found it. Luo Feng sensed an aura of the primal chaos realm, belonging to a merchant living within one of the cities. The merchant was smiling and running his business, warmly dealing with some regular customers. These city-dwelling cultivators had no idea that this merchant was the source of the endless evil catastrophe. The merchant sensed something and looked up at Luo Feng. In the moment he saw it, the merchant felt as if everything else disappeared from his sight except for a tremendously majestic star. This formidable star, rolling in, was already crushing the merchant's spiritual will. With the instantaneous obliteration of his spiritual will, the catastrophe beast of the black mist was thoroughly erased. Luo Feng was too cautious, worrying that the catastrophe beast of the black mist might be able to execute the causality escape technique. But in reality, the catastrophe beast of the black mist only cultivated in one branch of the origin Tao of causality, and was not adept in the causality escape technique. The moment Luo Feng arrived, it was the killing move Lai Yuan technique, using overpowering spiritual will to directly crush him, not leaving a single trace of consciousness, not even enough time to use the reincarnation secret technique. Thump. The merchant's face still held a smile as he fell down. In that moment, within the territory of the catastrophe beast of the black mist, the countless cultivators in over 100 cities had no idea that the tribulation of causality, from this moment on, had completely disappeared. Collect. Luo Feng waved his hand, collecting the body of the catastrophe beast of the black mist. Morosa finally has some food again. Luo Feng then left immediately. The complete death of the catastrophe beast of the black mist also caught the attention of some forces in the land of origin. After all, conflicts and killings among beings of the primal chaos realm were normal, and the true death of their true bodies was a common occurrence. But a complete death, total eradication of causality, that was very rare. Over just a few eras, the great Saint Bayu and catastrophe beast of the black mist had died in quick succession, which prompted those with intentions to investigate. The great Saint Bayu and catastrophe beast of the black mist, both completely perished within a few eras. They both had great sins. Could it be that some powerful godly king, intending to kill these grave sinners? The great Saint Bayu and catastrophe beast of the black mist was somewhat restrained, mainly slaughtering within their own territories. They didn't dare to affect too great an area. Have they still provoked a righteous and powerful being? This made many forces speculate. Fully killing top beings of the primal chaos realm in the land of origin was something very few could do, and usually, beings at the first realm of godly king couldn't achieve it. Naturally, it was suspected that some powerful beings took action. Of course, only 2 have died, so it wasn't a big commotion. If 10 or 8 were to die completely, that would cause a much bigger stir, and might even incite panic among some beings of the primal chaos realm. 100,000 merit points. Luo Feng, as a direct disciple of the emperor, now had authority to claim merit points that even surpassed those of the imperial clan's first-class marquises. He himself could submit tasks directly to the artifact spirit of the Palace of Emperor Chu. Palace of Emperor Chu, Inheritance Palace. Luo Feng once again arrived here. I need to watch the shadow of the catastrophe beast once, said Luo Feng directly to the artifact spirit elder. He had reached the godly king level from the bottleneck of the primal chaos realm thanks to the calamity beast diagram, and naturally was very interested in the more effective shadow of the catastrophe beast. Just one viewing was equivalent to the inheritance of the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form, too expensive, and only now had Luo Feng saved up enough merit points. Watch the shadow of the catastrophe beast. The artifact spirit elder looked at Luo Feng. Even just looking at a complete shadow of the catastrophe beast, even if it's only its image, requires a godly king's will just to barely maintain consciousness. It's best to have the spiritual will of the second realm of godly king before watching. The threshold spiritual will of a godly king is mainly used to stay conscious. Too little will be remembered from the image. Are you sure? Will you continue to watch? The artifact spirit elder looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng nodded. Watch. Just a mere image was this terrifying. What then was the origin of this catastrophe beast? Get ready. The artifact spirit elder nodded, then he dissipated. Luo Feng looked at the primal chaos before him, when gradually a vague and huge figure began to emerge from within. This video will end here.